Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. Hope you're all well. In today's video, we're going to fix a banana. Not this type of banana, but actually this banana here. So we have a PlayStation 5 Pro, which is, as you can see, I think someone's had a little bit of game rage with it. So top end of it is completely and utterly bent to pieces. Now, front end of it doesn't look too bad, but as you can see, the casing is definitely bent. It's mainly the back end of it where the bend is. Now, what I'm hoping is that the actual motherboard, which is all the way along here, is perfectly fine. And it's just the heat sinks that are bent, right, and cause the damage. So it's a bit of a weird one this week, but something different. Obviously, we got some damage to the casing there, which doesn't really make much difference, but there is damage, as you can see, to the fins there in the heatsink. So we'll take a look at that when we get it to bits. But as I say, this is a PlayStation 5 Pro edition, and it is completely bent because it doesn't really lay flat. It does power on, so it powers on. The fan makes an awful noise, so I imagine the actual fan itself has been snapped or the blades have broken, or it's just basically not laying flat and not rotating properly. It powers on for about 2 or 3 minutes and then powers off, and I think it powers off due to overheating because the fan, I don't believe, is spinning. Right, so let's get into it and start to dismantle it. So there's plenty of videos on YouTube showing you how to dismantle the PS5 Pro, so we'll just skip through this bit. What I would say is Sony have put marks next to each of the screw holes now to show you which length screw goes into which hole, which is handy. Right, so that's the top cover off. You can start to see the bend a little bit more. There we go, look at that. That's a proper bend. Now, as I said earlier, it looks like the motherboard itself is still straight and that hasn't been impacted by, I think, when someone had a little bit of game rage. It's mainly this heatsink pipe here and obviously all of the fins. So let's continue taking it all to bits and stripping everything completely out. So this bit's pretty simple, just flipping the case over. There's 2 screws to the rear, which allows you to remove all of the motherboard and heatsink assembly from the PS5 Pro. Right, so the casing has certainly taken a bit of a battering, and we can heat that up and try and bend that back into shape. Power supply looks good, but the main thing is that, look at that banana. So we've got quite a bit of damage here to the fins, and obviously damage here to the metal casing of the M.2 expansion slot holder. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to tear this down all the way. There's a little bit of plastic there as well. I'm going to tear this down so I can actually remove these pipes, and then we can try and straighten them out a little bit more. See how we get on with that. Right, so let's undo all of these 100 million screws. Yeah, so anyone that's dismantled a PS5 before will know how annoying all of these screws are. I'm not too sure why Sony need to have so many of these internal screws holding down that plate, but hey ho. Interestingly, the metal shield on this was really difficult to remove. Right, they obviously put a lot more thermal compound or thermal pads on the PlayStation Pro. Anyhow, let's pop the bracket off and let's gently pry out the motherboard. Hold on, there's one screw there I missed. One there. I think that's all of them. Yep, right, so let's pry off the motherboard gently as possible. flip it around. And then we can properly examine the motherboard. Yeah, look, now there's no pressure on it. It's just maybe a tiny little bend up there, but nothing to worry about. I doubt if that's broken any traces. So let's have a quick look at the PS5 Pro motherboard. See what we've got. So code for it is VSM010. What have we got here? It's got Southbridge here, Wi-Fi IC over here. What Southbridge IC is that? It is an SIE again, but let's just quickly read out the model. So we look under the microscope quickly. It is a CDX 90069GG, which has been used in other PlayStation models. Obviously, you've got the faster and more improved APU there as well. And then you've got the SSD controller here. And we've obviously got 1, 2, 3, 4 SSD chips themselves. It's 2 terabytes on these, I believe. And you've got all the RAM. You have the encoder for the HDMI over there. So layout wise, it's very similar to the slim version of the PS5. All these power sources down here, fuses, all looks good. Right, let's have a look at our banana, shall we? In a little bit more detail. So what I'm going to do is remove this tin plate quickly. Real simple, just 8 screws that need to be taken off, which removes the heatsink, and then just obviously clearing up all of the liquid metal. Right, so that's relatively cleaned up. What you'll notice on the PS5 Pro heatsink is they do have these grooves, which I'm sure you've seen in other videos. And I believe that is to help stop the dry spots that you see on the older PlayStations, or the PlayStations, the Generation 1 PlayStations, where the liquid metal used to move if you had it, the PlayStation mounted vertically, move, and there used to be a dry spot. But they've added these grooves now, which I imagine is to try and hold the liquid metal in place a little bit better, which is good to see. Right, now what we need to do is bend this straight again. I'm going to do that in a vise that I've got. I'll quickly do that off camera and we'll see how we get on, how we can fix these fins. Right, so there you go. I had to do it off camera because I had to use a vise to do it. So I've put I clamped the pipes here in a vise and then you gently worked the fins down and these pipes down so they're straight now. And then it sits nice and flat on a flat surface, which is good. So they're straight now. We just need to work through these fins, right? So let's do that. Let's just align these ones a bit better as well. Let's do that and see how we get on. So this bit was a little bit tricky, trying to get all the bends out of the metal fins because they're very thin. But I did a decent enough job to the end that it was a little bit more bent, and I correct that in the video later. Right, so that's the majority of the bends out. Now obviously you can see it's nowhere near perfect. But the main thing is with these fins is just to make sure there's airflow running between them. Obviously, so you want the fan blowing cool air through the fins to cool down the copper pipes, which then internally then go through and cool down the actual core as well. So that should do us for now. The end is still a little bit bent, but I don't think that will make much difference because the fins are not touching. I mean, obviously, ideally, you would replace this. Right, that's the better thing to do, but we're never going to sell this PlayStation. This is just a little bit of a test that we're doing. And these parts are really hard to come by, obviously, because the PlayStation Pro has just been released, and there's not many spare parts out for it at the minute. Talking of the fan itself, the fan is, we will have to replace the fan. You can get these fans from China, but the fan doesn't spin, right? It's literally just bent. You can hear that. So I'm not even going to, I mean, I could just bend it like that, but I'll do that temporarily for now. But I will replace the fan because you can actually get fans from, as I say, AliExpress. Just the internal parts you cannot get yet. There you go. Now it's spinning. So we'll leave that like so for now. But then we need to try and sort out the plastics because they are completely snapped. And it's still got a bend in it. Let's just move the power supply out of the way. Let's see what we can do about this. So as you can see, this is completely bent. I was hoping that once we remove the heatsink, this would pop back into place. So what I think is best to do is just try and give the whole area a bit of a heat up. All right, we'll remove the front panel, remove that aerial, just check that aerial was good. The antenna, that is good. We'll give the area a bit of a heat up and see what we can do with it. See if we can actually bend it back into place. So just applying a little bit of gentle heat with my heat gun, just to make the plastic easier to bend back into position. Right, so there you go, a bit of heat. It certainly looks a lot more healthier now. Obviously burnt the plastics a little bit or melted the plastics a little bit there, but as I say, we're not going to sell this PS5 Pro, so it doesn't matter too much. I removed this sidebar. Let's just bend this fan cover a little bit into place. There you go, that looks a bit better now. Right, how that looks, still a bend in it, but it does look a lot more healthier now we've added some heat to it. These fins at the back, again, they're all just cosmetic, but it'd be nice just to put a bit of plastic weld on there, just to hold them in place. So we will do that. And then we need to try and fix the broken plastic here as well with some plastic rod. Let's just see how everything lines up now. Yeah, see, that's lining up much better now. Like, there's no gap there at all, which is good. Yeah, good at the back as well. Right, we try a bit of plastic weld and then see how we get on with that. So putting everything back together again, starting with the power supply. Took a little bit of juggling around to get it all lined up, but then obviously getting all the piping back on the metal bracket for the heatsink. Getting that in place, giving it a bit of a wiggle, had to take it off again to try and level up the end of the fins there on the heatsink, but eventually popped nicely into position. So making sure the antenna lines up correctly, there's a little hole on the antenna which you need to line up with the screw hole on the case, and then obviously clearing up all the liquid metal both on the heatsink and on the motherboard as well. Then re-adding all those lovely silver screws, giving everything a bit of a clean up, and then finally getting everything put back together again. Right, so there we have it put back together. It was a bit of a squeeze to get it back together, but let's have a look. Still a little bit bent, right, as you can see, but nowhere near as much as it was. We're obviously missing the plastic casing piece there, but that's just cosmetic. Should all be okay. Let's get it plugged in and just make sure the fan is now spinning, because it wasn't previously. So give it some power, check the fan. And you can see the fan spinning, which is brilliant. So as I say, there we have it. Not as bent as it was previously. Still got a little bit of a bend in it, right? Hardly noticeable now though. So I'll spin it that way. Can't see it that much. All the back lines up correctly. And it's now working. So as I say, just a bit of a fun video really to show you how to fix a bent, bananaed PlayStation 5 Pro. We're not going to be selling this one, so as I say, it doesn't really matter about these plastic bits missing. If obviously we was going to think about reselling this, I would replace all of the plastics and then all of the heat sinks, metal heat sinks inside, as well as the fan, just to be on the safe side. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help us out. We're posting more and more videos every week now. So as I say, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves and see you again soon.